I just gave it a try and it went out in a special way in the goal.
The goal against Russia was a goal that, you know, he can do that another million times, he will never score that goal. I'm very proud of it. I think the national team at that moment with all youngsters who played so long together. Therefore, we were particularly proud after being so close a couple of times of winning something. Now, finally winning a trophy.
Gullit, Rijkaard and Van Basten would be reunited at club level. Rijkaard the last to join the famous Dutch trio at AC Milan.
Milan was a great team, and I think it started all with the team spirit, and the collective and the way we moved as a team.
The trio helped Milan reach the final of the European Cup, where they would face Steaua Bucharest in the famous Nou Camp in Barcelona.
It seemed almost impossible to have a stadium filled with only red and black compared to maybe just 300 or 400 Steaua fans. It was an incredible sight, not to mention the level of support we received. As soon as we saw the stadium, we knew that we couldn't lose the game.
I think the goals were the result of teamwork. And I remember the header of Marco. Great goal from Ruud when he turned. Yeah, and the last one was second half with Marco with his left in the far angle. Yeah. Great to see.
The final 4-0 was a great achievement. I think that we were at that moment we were on our top as a team.
They were just as dominant the following year. They went back to the final. Although Gullit had played only 2 games that season because of injury, he started against Benfica.
Against Benfica was totally different because the Portuguese normally know their game and they play very tactically.
It took a superb link-up between Van Basten and Rijkaard to change the match.
And luckily enough, we managed to win. A great pass of Marco, and I was lucky enough to make the goal.
Gullit was a European champion again for the 2nd season running. With quality all over the pitch, this Milan team was cementing their place in football history.
There were so many strengths. We're talking about a team who won so much, and for such a long time, who dazzled the world. We're still talking about this team now, after all these years. The most important thing, though, was that we always thought about the future, and not about the past.
Next up for the Dutch was the World Cup of 1990 in Italy. This was the first that Gullit had featured in, and Holland's first in 12 years. But the tournament started badly with 2 draws. Elimination looked imminent. It took Gullit to save the day with a goal against the Republic of Ireland in their 3rd match. Another draw, but the Dutch made it through by the skin of their teeth. In the 2nd round they were up against their arch-rivals again, West Germany. Bremer gave the Germans a 2-1 win, and the Dutch were out.
We were not able to beat them, and they were already said physically they were simply a little better than we at that time.
This proved to be Gullit's first and last World Cup. The next international tournament was the defence of Holland's European crown in Sweden. Gullit and his team put in some fine performances in the group stages, with the Dutch qualifying convincingly and then gaining revenge on the Germans with a 3-1 win. They could taste European glory again. They met Denmark in the semi-finals. Henrik Larsson put them ahead. Bergkamp equalised. Larsson scored again, before Rijkaard grabbed the equaliser with just minutes left. So it went to penalties.
There was 10 penalties and there was only one missed. I was the only one who missed the penalty.
Kim Christoph scored and Holland's reign as European champions was over. Euro 92 proved to be the last major international tournament in Gullit's impressive career. The most successful Dutch captain in the country's history made the decision 2 years later to retire from international football. Back with the Rossoneri, Gullit was still enjoying success in a team that had a fearsome reputation all over Europe.
It was a team that he used to play football differently. For the first time, I think they were the only team in Serie A at that moment playing pressing all over the place. So it was very difficult for the opposition to really have the opportunity to play.
Gullit helped Milan dominate in Serie A. He scored vital goals in the 1992 campaign, which saw the club win the title again, his second in Serie A. The following season wasn't so smooth. Although Milan won another title, Gullit played a more peripheral role due to problems with his knees, and it seemed Milan were losing faith in him.
Milan didn't believe I could play 3 matches in a week, something like that. That I had problems with my knees. The bad thing for me was that I couldn't prove it because they didn't give me the possibility to show.
Feeling rejected, Gullit moved to Sampdoria.
When I went to Sampdoria, I think I showed everyone that was not the case, that my knees were okay. And we won also the Italian Cup.
Perhaps one of the highlights of his time at Sampdoria was his goal against his former employers, Milan.
We beat also Milan. Normally you would not cheer so much, but for me the frustration of not showing it and also not giving me the possibilities, although you talked about it, was for me a victory on itself.
Gullit played for a season at Sampdoria before briefly returning to Milan and then back to Sampdoria again. But Gullit's Italian adventure had come to an end. In 1995, Gullit moved to England and Chelsea on a free transfer.
Chelsea was for me the happy time. Every time I come to London, every time I come to Chelsea, I feel that I have that feeling. Chelsea was a choice of life. I remember the days, first time I went to King's Road, that was the best feeling I ever had. And I think it showed also in the way I played also at Chelsea.
Signed by Glenn Hoddle, he was quick to make Stamford Bridge his home. And after Hoddle's departure in 1996, Gullit took on the role of player-manager.
I think he had good ideas. I still remember the way we used to play football with Chelsea. When he was there, it was great. Still people, they still talk about that Chelsea as the team who played the best football.
Chelsea were revolutionised by Gullit's ideas and in 1997 reached the FA Cup final. Gullit was slowly shifting towards the role of full-time management, only putting in one appearance en route to the final and ruling himself out of the game itself. Roberto Di Matteo's long-range strike with under a minute gone and Eddie Newton's tap-in ensured the FA Cup went to Chelsea and Gullit. But despite the success, Chairman Ken Bates and Gullit's relationship soon soured and he was forced to leave the club.
Difficult decision, obviously. He was having problems and so the club and him parted, but I think people still recognise that he's done a good job.
That time at Chelsea proved to be Gullit's most successful in management. With spells at Newcastle, Feyenoord and most recently with LA Galaxy in the United States, ending without honours. But his playing career will always be remembered as one of the greatest ever. Breaking boundaries and changing thinking, be that either on the pitch or in the political arena. The most successful Dutch captain of all time, a worldwide football icon who whose name and spirit will surely endure the test of time.
On the way, you know, I met some marvelous people and great stars.
He was a good player. He had a brain.
He was a great player. He always was.
Physically, he was so impressive. He was a player who could play up front, in midfield, or even in defence. A complete player.
I feel very, very, very lucky.